In times of turbulence, it's good to have sage advice about what to do and who to listen to. But unfortunately, all you have is me and Nick Fuentes. Let's get into some of the bad advice he gave everybody. Before we get to the horrible advice that Nick Fuentes gave everyone, I want to see a little bit of the roundup of what's been happening. First, we have 3 pilots that were downed in Kuwait and actually came in safely and rescued. Watch this.
No problem, you're safe. You're safe, you're safe. Everything good? No problem. Thank you for helping us. Everything good?
Is this the female pilot? Ooh.
Pete Hegseth got a little bit into it with reporters about what the president's timeline might be, and he is continuing to show and demonstrate what it looks like to have some huevos rancheros on the table in the conflict.
It could move up, it could move back.
We're
going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve. And what he has shown an ability to do that other presidents can't quite seem to have the aperture to do. Well, I mean, Joe Biden didn't even know what he was doing, is to look for opportunities and off-ramps and escalations for the United States that creates new opportunities to execute what we need on our own timeline. So you can play games about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He has all the latitude, and I'm glad he does.
By all reports, the Navy of Iran is being hit exceedingly hard, and it looks like there might be some of the shipping lanes for oil that are continuing to be cared for and opened up by the U.S. Navy.
At 6. U.S. Central Command shared this video as well of an Iranian ship being absolutely obliterated. The U.S. has sunk 11 Iranian ships. Defense officials tell Fox Iran only has small boats left, but still could mine the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says it's closed. The U.S. says it isn't.
Marco Rubio, as one would expect, continues to make the case for why this conflict was necessary in the first place, and he gives a little bit of foreshadowing about who exactly might try to take over the country and exactly how little options they have.
Simple English. Okay? Iran is run by lunatics, religious fanatic lunatics. They have an ambition to have nuclear weapons. They intend to develop those nuclear weapons behind a program of missiles and drones and terrorism that the world will not be able to touch them for fear of those things. And this is the weakest they've ever been. Now is the time to go after them. The president made the decision to go after them, take away their missiles, take away their navy, take away their drones, take away their ability to make those things so that they can never have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president made this decision. It was the right decision. And the world will be a safer place when these radical clerics no longer have access to these weapons. You see how they're using them now. Imagine how they would use them a year from now if they had more of these.
Marco Rubio also said that the hardest hits are yet to come, which makes it seem like the decapitation of the Iranian military force and the IRGC might actually be in the plans.
But the hardest hits are yet to come from the U.S. military. The next phase will be even more punishing on Iran than it is right now. Someone was screaming, how long will it take? I don't know how long it'll take. We have objectives. We will do this as long as it takes to achieve those objectives, and we will achieve those objectives. The world will be a safer place when we're done with this operation.
Trump was asked who might be the potential people to take over the Iranian country, and while he might have had plans, it looks like they really don't have a great successor. And Reza Pahlavi was brought up, who was the crown prince previous to this, to the administration that had been overtaking Iran for the last 47 years or so, but it seems like the options are few.
But it would seem to me that somebody that's there, that's currently popular, if there's such a person, but we have people like that. We have people that were more moderate. You know, these were radical lunatics, and you know what they get? They get nothing. All they do is kill people.
The Pope put out, as one would expect, a pretty limp-wristed statement saying that everybody needs to just have some conversations, and John Harris of the Conversations That Matter podcast expresses a little bit of his frustration with that.
The Pope, once you know it, the Pope came out, he called for dialogue amid what's happening. He said, I am following with deep concern what is happening in the Middle East and in Iran in these dramatic hours. Stability and peace are not built on mutual threats, nor on weapons, which slow destruction, pain, and death, but only through reasonable, authentic, and responsible dialogue. All right. It's just, we got to yearn for peaceful coexistence based on justice, he said. When, the Pope just never ceases to Give us those leftist talking points.
Last but not least, we have Nick Fuentes giving the delivery of possibly the worst advice that could be authored for what to do in times of conflict. Watch a little bit of what he has to say about his disappointment in the Trump administration.
Oh my God.
Do not vote in the midterms, and if you do, vote for Democrats.
Yes.
Fuck this.
Yep.
That is what the Republicans deliver. That is what our golden age looks like. The tariffs were refunded. The deportation.
Tariffs were refunded. No, it would be great if people do get tariff refunds, but they're not. It's going to go to corporations.
Were stopped.
No, they're not. The deportations are continuing, and ICE is still a fucking Gestapo terrorizing people.
They wound down and withdrew the ICE from Minneapolis.
No, they didn't. They're still there.
What does this administration do other than embezzle money?
True.
Go to war with Iran.
True.
And bury the Epstein file.
True.
Oh, and blackmail Harvard so they police anti-Semitism.
True.
Nick Fuentes even has this liberal commentator disagreeing with him about exactly all of the ways that Trump has or has not delivered on some of his campaign promises. And at the end of this, I apologize for all the cussing. What he says is that perhaps you should even consider voting for Democrats. Needless to say, I firmly disagree with the idea that you should vote for the Democratic Party because Trump hasn't delivered on some of his campaign promises, or maybe he has, but Nick Fuentes possibly gets this wrong here. What I would say is it is normal to try to assert yourself for things that are important to you, like the SAVE Act, like other pieces of legislation, and put pressure on those who are elected because Trump is the executive. And I really think that Nick is probably taking umbrage more than anything that Trump seems to fall in line with what Israel wants and needs. And like any boomer would, Trump has just taken that to heart during this term in his presidency. However, what we should do as believers, and what Nick Fuentes would know from his Catholic roots, is firstly, we should pray. The God who created all of this and is not surprised by what's happening does have a pathway forward for us. And for those who believe, he will try to work all things together for those who love him. So it is important for us to pray. It is also important that we do not become volatile like Nick probably has an incentive to do that. He gets his fans and his audience riled up. And do not be surprised when the Republican Party will disappoint you, because they often do. And whether or not you firmly agree with the Iranian overtaking that has happened over the last several days, it is up to us to support what would be best for the Americans who might return from this conflict, for those who might have family members who are fighting in it, and for the ways that the military is being pressed into service in a radical change of pace for the American military. It is up to us to try to support those who we love, and yes, even those that we might disagree with, as they try to fight for our future. And if you wanted the border to be open, if you want your children to be taken out of your custody if you don't agree with their politics by CPS, if you want the continuation of being taught that or told that you cannot be hired if you're a certain gender or a certain race, if you want to continue to be told that you cannot pursue higher education if you're a certain gender or race, that you're toxic if you're a man, that you are worthy of being assassinated like Charlie Kirk was if you disagree with someone politically, that is what the Democratic Party has for us and will continue to have for us if and when they return to power. So my recommendation is not to listen to Nick on this. Do not vote for that party. That would be, and by the way, pray. God is not surprised by this. If you would like to not vote for Democrats and to have a future of faith, fatherhood, and freedom in America, I'd appreciate your support. I'll talk to you later.